The courtroom is quiet, but the tension is palpable. 5 women, 1 man, and a pile of secrets that can ruin everything they have ever worked for. Tonight, alliances will be broken, truths will spill out, and one choice can change their lives for good. Can love endure betrayal when the world's eyes are upon them? Stay with me, because what's about to happen will make you wonder about everything. CT at the end of the hook if you're sure you can take the anarchy. Keep watching, because it's only just starting. The massive wooden doors to the courtroom swing open and Kody steps inside, face set in a mask of restrained calm, though each step makes him seem to flinch in some way. There's a faint scent of wood polish and stale coffee, overhead fluorescent lights casting dark shadows across the room. Robin is seated to his left, nervously drumming fingers on the arm of her seat, and Christine, Mary, and Janelle sit on the benches opposite him, narrowed eyes, their bodies tense with anticipation. The judge, a grizzled old man with a voice that can slice steel, looks down over the rim of his glasses, and the gavel trembles in his hand like a challenge. This court is now in session, he declares, and the room is silent as it waits. Kody swallows hard, looking at Robin. Her gaze meets his with a flash of hope, and for a fleeting moment, he allows himself to dream that perhaps they can weather this storm. But the whispers of the courtroom tell a different tale. Christine's mouth twists into a thin, barely perceptible smile. She has always been at her best in adversity, and today the price is greater than ever. When the first witness is summoned, the room changes. Mary emerges, her hands locked together in front of her. She clears her throat, her voice shaking but firm. "I never wanted it to go like this," she tells them, the words barely heard above the chill of the walls. But the truth cannot be concealed any longer. Retention line. You won't believe the secrets that are going to arise. They're larger than anyone ever thought. The other lawyer leans forward, his eyes shining with eagerness. "Mary, are you saying that Kody mishandled money that belonged to all of you?" He presses, his voice careful but sharp. Mary pauses, looks at the other wives, and then, as if gathering every bit of courage, nods slowly. "Yes. And I have evidence." She produces a fat folder of papers, and the courtroom leans in as a whole, the shuffling of paper filling the air like a drum roll of impending anarchy. Christine's sharp intake of breath cuts through the silence. She rises, her heels clicking against the floor, and points to a particular page. "These numbers don't add up," she says. "I've been trying to protect the family, but it seems the truth was being buried under layers of deception." Robin shifts in her seat, a wave of anxiety crossing her features. She knows this is bigger than money. It's about trust, respect, and the fragile bonds that tie them all together. Her voice is soft but unwavering when she finally speaks. "I've loved him all these years," she says, "but love doesn't mean ignoring what's right." Retention line. Each look, each whispered word in this room might make the difference. Watch and see, nothing is ever what it appears to be. The judge relaxes back, interlacing his fingers, and the tension increases. "We will hear from each of the parties involved," he announces. "Let us start with Kody." Kody stands up, every muscle in his body tense. He talks deliberately, slowly. "I've attempted to keep this family together," he acknowledges, his eyes darting between each wife. "I never meant to hurt anybody. But maybe in attempting to do everything for everybody, I lost my focus on what matters most." Christine's laugh cuts quick, almost bitter. "Lost sight? Or were you behind a mask when it all came crashing down?" The air tenses, the words delivered like rocks.
Kody swallows hard, not knowing whether to speak or keep quiet, and in the quiet, the tension deepens. Retention line, and just as you think you know the tale, a twist is going to flip the whole thing on its head. The session continues with testimony that shakes the very foundation of their relationships. Robin recounts private conversations that reveal fractures no one could have predicted.
Christine unveils financial irregularities that suggest betrayal far deeper than Kody ever imagined. Mary's emotional confessions strike at the heart, and even Janelle, who has remained quiet, steps forward with evidence that could change everything. The camera, or in this instance, your imagination, is able to catch the minute details. Robin's hand shaking as she reaches for some evidence, Kody looking frantically from wife to wife, Christine's clenched jaw waging a battle with tears and rage, and the judge's unemotional face that somehow makes the tension greater. Nothing is settled by the end of the session. Alliances change, suspicions erupt, and the burden of unspoken reality hangs thick in the air. The gavel drops, calling a temporary adjournment, but the tension does not evaporate. It hangs, waiting to unleash itself like a storm on the verge of bursting. Retention line, and just when you believe the worst is behind you, the next bombshell will stun you in ways you never imagined. As the wives exit the courtroom, their footsteps echoing off the walls, Kody remains behind, a turmoil of feelings clear on his face. He realizes the next session will be worse, more brutal, and more revealing, maybe even life-altering. The audience is left with one haunting thought. In this household, secrets are a weapon, and the court is the battle zone where everything will be disclosed. Cliffhanger. Who will be the victor, and who will be left to gather up the shards of betrayal and heartbreak? The courtroom is opened again, and the tension is palpable, heavy, almost choking, as if the walls themselves were waiting with bated breath. Kody sits hard in his seat, hands folded hard, jaw set hard, while Robin tugs at the hem of her sleeve, a nervous fidget that reveals the turmoil that seethes within. Christine leans forward slightly, her eyes sharp and calculating, as if she can penetrate every thought going through Cody's head, while Mary sits quietly, although the tiny tremble of her hands betrays the maelstrom of feelings she is attempting to keep under wraps. Janelle sits impassive but aloof, her eyes roving around the room like a hawk searching for the next exchange of power. The judge enters, gavel in hand, and the murmurs immediately cease as the proceedings are opened. The day's first witness is called a quietly introspective accountant who has spent months going over the family's finances. He rises, briefcase in hand, the gravity of the moment in the press of his adjusting his glasses. Your Honor, he starts, voice firm but unshaking. The discrepancies are substantial. Money was siphoned off without the agreement of all parties, and the tendency indicates deliberate cover-up. Gasps spread through the group. Kody goes pale, and his face tightens, and Robin automatically reaches out to place a hand on his arm, a gesture of solidarity, but tension between them is palpable. Christine stands up at once, her words slicing through shock like a knife. So you're saying all these years, while we were trying to work as a family, that the decisions were being made behind our backs? Kody, how could you? Her words have impact, each syllable heavy with betrayal, and the courtroom is temporarily like war-torn terrain, every eye turned harshly upon Kody. Retention line, you'll not believe the bombshell that's going to be dropped. Everything will change that you ever did know. Kody gulps, trying to speak, but the gravity of the allegations is overwhelming. I didn't mean for it to go this way. He stammers, voice shaking, an uncommon fissure in his otherwise stoic facade. Robin squeezes his hand in a silent appeal for truthfulness, but her eyes betray uncertainty, and the flickering of fear that she has never expressed before becomes undeniable. The accountant presses on, releasing charts and statements, each one more damning than the last, constructing an image of mismanagement and concealment that leaves the wives shaken. Mary stands up at last, voice cracking a little but firm in determination. I tried to ignore it, to protect the family, but now it's clear we were all deceived. This isn't just about money, it's about trust, about respect, and about every promise we thought was sacred. Her eyes meet Cody's, the unspoken hurt and disappointment hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Christine leans closer, her tone sharp and unrelenting. And what about the hidden emails, Kody? The ones I discovered last month? Were those included in this so-called management of family money, or is there another secret you're keeping? The courtroom is silent. Each head swivels toward Kody, whose fingers bend around the edge of the table, knuckles white, as he fights to keep himself under control. Retention line, pay attention now. The next confession will blow your mind and potentially rewrite the story completely. Abruptly, Janelle gets up, speaking calmly but coldly, slicing through the tension building in the room. We've all been keeping our mouths shut for the sake of appearances, but it's time someone tells the truth. Kody, the family can't take any more secrets, and if you won't tell the truth, I will. The threat lingers in the air, and Cody's eyes grow wide, a flash of fear and understanding on his face. Robin cranes forward, her tone gentle but firm, in contrast to the rough-voiced others. We have to meet this head-on, but we can't proceed unless we are aware of all things. Each decision, each secret decision, it's all significant. The atmosphere tightens as the judge intervenes, urging restraint, but even he cannot hide the charged expectation in the air. He gestures to the next witness, a one-time family acquaintance who has witnessed the private gatherings and has been privy to the secret conversations the wives were unaware of. Their testimony starts gingerly, but as the narrative progresses, it is revealed that the fissures within the family are deeper than everyone had imagined. There were threats, the witness discloses, voice trembling ever so slightly, and manipulations, things beyond basic miscommunication. There were evenings when Kody vowed something to one wife and something entirely different to another. Gasps and murmurs break out. Christine's eyes flash with anger. Mary seems like the ground has been swept from beneath her, and Robin's face pales, lips pressed into thin lines of disbelief and pain. Kody squirms uncomfortably, and Janelle's arms are crossed tightly over her chest, indicating that she is steeling herself for the battle ahead. Retention line. With every secret revealed, the family gets ever closer to breaking point. Watch closely. Nothing appears as it does. The courtroom is a whirlwind of emotion, with fingers pointed, voices raised, and tears flowing freely. Robin's hands tremble as she speaks of a confidential discussion with Kody and exposes some contradictions that oppose what he has shared with each wife. Christine's eyes blaze with anger, and she bangs her hand on the table. You lied to all of us, Kody. All of us trusted you, and this is how you return that trust. Mary's voice cracks as she goes on to say, it's not the money, Christine, it's the way he manipulated us into playing against one another. How could a man we loved so much bring this kind of devastation? The judge holds up his hand, trying to restore order, but the tension is evident, the air charged with anger, grief, and incredulity. Kody finally answers, throat sore, confessing that he's made errors, that trying to please everyone resulted in choices that hurt the very people he cares about most. I wanted to save everyone, he explains, but I realize now that trying to save everything, I failed all of you. Robin inches towards him, a tear rolling down her cheek, speaking softly, we can't just push this under the carpet. We must have honesty. That's how we make it through. Christine stands up quickly, gesturing towards the papers on the table. Honesty? Or excuses? The evidence is here. How do you explain this, Kody? The courtroom is on tenterhooks, the silence only broken by soft rustling of papers and the occasional cry. Retention line, hold your breath. The next bombshell will rock the very foundations of their family. Just when it appears things cannot get more heated, the witness drops a bombshell, a chain of emails, long unknown, revealing dialogues that indicate manipulation not only financially but also emotionally, a conscious orchestration to set the wives against one another. Mary gasps, Christine's hands shake, Robin's eyes go wide in shock, and Janelle's face set in determination as she comprehends the full extent of deception. Kody sits immobilized, the burden of publicity bearing down like a vice, the room alive with tension as all the participants consider the repercussions. The judge leans forward, his voice slicing through the tension. We will proceed with this tomorrow, but it's obvious that this case has a long way to go. Gird yourselves. The session that follows will bring even more, and it will make you question everything you believe about family, trust, and loyalty. With the fall of the gavel, marking temporary recess, the camera zooms in on the wives' faces, each one grappling with shock, betrayal, and doubt. The tension is relentless, and as they exit the courtroom, the storm outside reflects the tempest raging within, dark clouds churning, ominous, capricious. Retention line, you believe this is the peak. Wait until the next session, when you will doubt every fact you have ever learned. The viewers are left on tenterhooks, aware that today's cracks are merely the start, that the emotional showdowns that lie ahead will cut even deeper, and that each secret, each deception, will require a reckoning. Who will be the first to call out Kody in the next session? Who will buckle under the burden of reality? And who will manage to weather the emotional repercussions that are on the verge of erupting in ways none of them could have imagined? The courtroom crackles with tension as day 2 of testimony unfolds, the air heavy with expectation that makes each breath heavy. Kody sits stiff in his chair, eyes flicking anxiously from wife to wife, each of them bearing an emotional storm that is held precariously in check by polite exteriors. Robin grips her bag firmly, her knuckles pale, her mind whirling with questions she's been too scared to ask until now, while Christine sits forward, her lips pursed into a thin line, measuring every step, every word that might work in her favor. Mary sits with her hands clasped in her lap, though they shake slightly, betraying the fear she is working so hard to conceal, and Janelle's face is inscrutable, her face a mask of stone as she sits ready to spring at the slightest revelation of another secret. The judge comes in, gavel held high, and the room grows quiet, the air thick with tension that is nearly palpable. The first witness is an old family friend, a person who has seen the inner dynamics of the family for decades, and when she takes the stand, the room shifts uneasily. I have seen this family come up, and I have seen trust dissolve. She starts, voice firm but laden with implication. I know secrets that were never intended to be revealed, secrets that would damage the very essence of these unions. Gasps resound through the room, and Cody's grip on the lip of the table whitens as he tries to guess the secrets that are about to be revealed. Retention line. The secrets that come out next will rock the family to its foundation. You won't want to miss a single moment of this. The witness goes on, recounting late-night arguments heard, manipulations subtle, and emotional games played between Kody and each of the wives, describing events that each of the wives had suspected but never had any solid evidence of. Christine's eyes narrow, her jaw clenches, and Sheilene's eyes narrow, her jaw clenches. So all those times I accused you of breaking your promises, you were on purpose misleading me? Kody swallows hard, the burden of the piled-up allegations weighing against him, his voice little above a whisper. I I never wanted to hurt anyone, he manages to say, the quiver in his voice belied by the turmoil within. Robin moves closer to him, resting a hand on his arm, a silent show of support and fear, as if to remind him and herself that they are still in this together, even as suspicion gnaws at her heart. Retention line, and just when you think you know the truth, the next revelation will make everything more complicated. The witness pushes a folder down the table to the judge, who opens it with care, pulling out photographs, texts, and written comments, hinting at a cycle of selective truthfulness, manipulation by emotions, and behind-the-scenes alliances that no one in the room could have foreseen. Mary gasps, covering her mouth with her hand, tears welling up in her eyes, and Janelle edges forward, tense but wordless, taking in the consequences of the evidence laid before her. Christine's fingers tap on the table's edge, a fast staccato of frustration and anger, as she mutters under her breath, "He played us, all of us." The courtroom is an emotional maelstrom, each whisper, each sideways look, each subtle movement increasing the drama. Kody fidgets in his seat, his usual self-assured demeanor replaced by a strained stiffness, as if every new discovery physically shoves him deeper into a corner. Robin's voice shakes as she starts to speak, her words measured but heavy with terror and sadness. "I thought I knew him, I thought I knew us," she says, looking at Kody. "But the truth is a shadow I never foresaw, and I don't know if I can recognize the man I married anymore." Hold your breath. The next testimony will prove a betrayal no one saw coming. Christine leaps up quickly, her voice cutting, slicing through the building tension like a knife. "And what about the conversations we never had? The secrets pledged, the lies that pitted us against one another. Justify that to me, Kody." Cody's hands shake a little as he stands to answer, the room hushed but for the soft rustling of paper and the rare cough. I I didn't think I was doing any harm," he confesses, voice breaking. "I wanted harmony, but in attempting to control all of it, I made decisions that have hurt the people I love most." Mary's voice cracks with unshed tears as she leans in, her words hardened but shattered. "Protecting us, by lying to all of us, by making us doubt one another, doubt ourselves? That's not protection, that's destruction." The courtroom is a stage of unbridled emotion, the wives' outrage, pain, and betrayal crashing into Cody's remorse and desperation. The judge, aware of the heat, orders a brief recess, yet even the respite does not quell the storm. Robin brushes away tears, muttering to herself and the audience, "How do we endure this when every foundation we built is cracking?" Retention line, you think the worst is over. The next surprise will make you wonder at every one of the relationships in this family. When the proceedings continue, the tension is almost suffocating. Another witness comes forward, a former member of staff who has been privy to in-house arguments and clandestine decisions. Their testimony is cautious at first, but gradually the details they reveal are damning. Hidden meetings, conflicting instructions, manipulative conversations, and moments of deception that had been invisible to the wives until now. Christine's face flushes with rage, Mary's hands tremble, and Janelle's lips press into a firm line as each revelation lands like a hammer. Kody sits frozen, the weight of exposure threatening to break him. Robin leans into him, speaking softly, "We must confront this together, but we must have total candor." The witness pushes a series of photographs across the table, each one showing interactions at variance with Cody's words and disclosing alliances and conversations which have been hidden. Gasps echo through the room, the tension escalating to near intolerable heights. Retention line, each photo, each word unearthed here is part of a puzzle you won't see coming. The courtroom is a war zone, with shouting voices, tears streaming, and confrontations breaking out at every turn. Christine verbally spews, Mary cries in front of everyone, and Robin's calls for truth are met with stubbornness and frustration. Kody finally stands, attempting to put into words the choices that brought them here. I... I believed I was doing the best thing for everyone, he says, his voice cracking. I didn't know what destruction it would bring, what destruction it would bring, what distrust it would plant. Janelle speaks for the first time, her tone even but cutting. We can't repair this if we just keep pretending it's all mistakes. There are things here that are more than errors. They are betrayals, and betrayals have the power to change everything. The room drops silent as the weight of her words hangs, the wives sharing shocked glances, anger, and fear.
Kody bows his head, the magnitude of it all finally resting upon his shoulders. Retention line, and just when you believe the storm has blown itself out, the next revelation will land even harder.
The judge requests the next item of evidence, and the audience is stunned as a chain of emails is produced, explaining exchanges between Kody and each wife that not only reveal deception but calculated acts of emotional manipulation, creating conflict and exerting control. Mary gasps, Christine's eyes are blazing with rage, Robin's world crumbles around her, and Janelle's face sets hard as she absorbs the betrayal. Kody struggles to speak, fumbling over his words as each email presents an increasingly damning scenario. The courtroom is an emotional and tension-filled roller coaster, the tension so high that each movement and each look is huge. Retention line, the next confession will blow open secrets no one dared imagine. It's impossible to predict who will break first. The session goes on with the testimony of a second witness testifying as to the emails, further substantiating the allegations and validating suspicions the wives had harbored for years but were unable to confirm. Christine accuses Kody, her voice filled with passion. You deceived us all. Each of us trusted you, and this is the price of that trust. Mournfully, Robin swallows back tears, muttering to herself, how do we endure when love and deceit are so inextricably tied? Mary continues, shaking but firm, I want the truth, Kody, whatever the cost. We can't rebuild on lies. Kody at last confesses, in a whispery voice, that he can't turn back the clock, can't take away the hurt inflicted, but he hopes there could be a way forward if all of them can have honesty and forgiveness. The judge adjourns, and the wives depart the courtroom with heavy hearts, their footsteps echoing in the hallway as if tracing the weight of the day's disclosures. The storm raging outside reflects the turmoil inside each one of them, dark, menacing, and volatile. Retention line, you think you've seen it all. The next session will rewrite everything you thought about loyalty, love, and betrayal. As the courtroom clears, the audience has a feeling of foreboding. Things will never be the same, and the emotional showdowns ahead will cut even deeper than what has already been witnessed, leaving each character open, exposed, and on the threshold of choices which will change the direction of their lives forever. The cliffhanger is obvious: who will meet Kody first in the next hearing? Who will crack under the burden of truth, and who will emerge stronger than ever, prepared to face the repercussions of the secrets now exposed? The courtroom opens onto a charged room, nearly electric, as all the occupants take their seats, the tension so palpable the walls seem to be closing in on them. Kody sits at the center, hands clenched tightly in front of him, jaw set, the shadow of guilt and fear flickering across his features, while Robin sits beside him, her face a fragile combination of hope and fear, fingers twisting the material of her sleeve nervously as if attend the material of her sleeve nervously as if attend the material of her sleeve nervously as if attend step. Apart at the seams, Christine leans forward a little, eyes sharp and calculating, scanning every micro-expression on Cody's face, every slight movement that might betray weakness, while Mary clasps her hands tightly in her lap, knuckles white, breathing shallow as she waits for the next wave of emotional blows that could shatter the thin sense of composure she has so far managed to keep. Janelle sits slightly apart, arms folded, lips compressed and slightly apart, arms folded, lips compressed and hands to keep. Janelle sits slightly apart, arms folded, lips compressed and forwarding, lips compressed and tightly apart, arms folded, lips compressed and lightly apart, arms folded. Janelle sits slightly apart, calculating how best to negotiate the chaos while insulating herself from the emotional fallout that seems inevitable. The judge enters, his gavel poised like a drawn sword, and at once calls the room to order, the sound of his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The first witness of the day is a therapist who has been working with the family for months, and as they take the stand, a hush falls over the room. The weight of impending revelation, the weight of impending revelation, the weight of impending revelations, the weight of impending revelation is family for months. And as they take the stand, a hush falls over the room. The weight of impending revelation cutting Pizvortand. The first falls over the room. The weight of impending sessions with this family. The therapist begins, voice calm but firm. I have seen patterns of emotional manipulation, unspoken conflict, and behaviors which have created a deep breakdown in trust between Kody and each of his wives. There are truths that, if revealed publicly, could irreparably damage these relationships. The words hang in the air, electric and heavy, and Cody's shoulders slump slightly, a flicker of fear crossing his usually composed face. Robin leans forward, eyes glistening with unshed tears, whispering almost to herself, "This is the moment we've feared, the moment that changes everything," while Christine stiffens, jaw tight, as if bracing herself for the emotional explosion she suspects is imminent. Retention line. The next revelation will bite deeper than anything yet. It will leave every family member stunned. The therapist goes on, describing certain moments in which private talks and vows were manipulated to pit the wives against each other, revealing moments of dishonesty that no one could have anticipated. Mary gasps loudly, her hands flying to cover her mouth, as Christine leans in, her eyes glinting dangerously. So all those nights spent sneaking around, all those soft vows, were part of some big game. She demands, voice trembling with game. She demands, voice trembling with game. She demands, voice trembling with Blinzloins at this bold line. Voice trembling with once all those soft vows were part of some big game. She demands, voice trembling with this lovely. Falls silent, the air charged with the power of feelings. Undefined, Kody swallows hard, trying to answer, but the words stick in his throat, and for the first time in public, he looks vulnerable, uncertain, his bravado stripped away by the constant revealing of what he has done. Robin lays a hand on his arm, a gesture of solidarity, but even she can't hide the doubt fluttering in her eyes, a silent concession that the truth will be more destructive than any of them could have guessed. On options, item selected, P, retention line. With every secret uncovered, they inch closer to tearing the family asunder. Watch closely. The therapist spreads out emails, messages, and private notes that Kody had directed at each wife separately, revealing subtle manipulations that had invited competition, suspicion, and bewilderment. Christine's fingers drum against the table fiercely, each beat ringing out like a heartbeat in the strained stillness, as Mary shakes her head helplessly, unable to believe how profoundly the lies have entered their lives. Janelle's lips compress 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 entered their lives. Weighing her next move while tamping down her feelings, Kody finally musters up the courage to speak, his voice shaking. I thought I was keeping the peace. I thought I was keeping everyone safe. But I realize now that I have only planted discord and hurt. And Robin's eyes well up with tears as she utters, "We asked for the truth, and now it hurts more than we ever could have imagined." Retention line. The next witness will reveal a betrayal so unbelievable it might alter everything you believed you knew about loyalty and trust. The second witness is a close friend who has been to the family multiple times and seen the hairline fissures in their interactions spread over years. With every word, the room bends in as one, tension building like a compressed spring that is about to unwind. I have witnessed moments of manipulative calculation, where Kody has played one wife off against another, aware of the consequences yet proceeding regardless. The witness discloses, voice calm but cutting, and Christine springs to her feet. Her face a grimace of rage. "How could you make us into pawns in a game of lies?" She shouts, and the courtroom vibrates with her emotional intensity. Mary begins to weep quietly, Robin wipes her eyes, and Janelle's gaze hardens, a quiet storm of anger and resolve. Undefined. Cody's hands tremble as he tries to respond, his voice breaking. I never wanted this to hurt anyone. I believed I was doing what was best for all of us, but the harm is already done. The words insufficient in comparison to the torrent of disclosures, the evidence, and the emotional blow on everyone present. Undefined defined retention line. Hold your breath. The next piece of evidence will surprise the family and the audience in ways you can't even begin to imagine. As the witness slides in another batch of emails, texts, and documents, the room leans forward as one, and the tension builds to a near suffocating point. The exchanges show Cody's efforts at manipulating impressions, inciting dominance over the family dynamics, and with every new uncovering, the wives' faces change from shock to anger to heartbreak, the courtroom a stage of raw emotion. Robin's hands shake as she recalls her intimate discussions with Kody, detailing inconsistencies and contradictions that attest to the extent of deception. Christine's eyes blaze with rage, accusatory finger pointed at Kody. "Every lie, every manipulation, every secret, it all comes back to you," she states, and the courtroom holds its collective breath, anticipating the emotional crescendo that is to come. Mary is the next to speak, her voice trembling but firm. "I won't forgive so easily. The faith that we have put in you, Kody, has been broken, and it will not be repaired by words only." And Janelle continues, "We want accountability, not excuses. Actions have consequences, and we've all paid the price of your choices." Retention line. Every glance, every whisper in this courtroom could change the course of the family forever. Watch carefully. The judge orders a quick recess, and the atmosphere outside the court is thick with expectation, but when the hearing resumes, the stakes have never been greater. The next witness, a private detective, presents photos and audio recordings that validate the manipulations, displaying Cody's private moments and secretive demeanor. Each photo, each clip a shock to the tenuous sense of trust the wives have been holding on to. Christine stands, voice shaking with anger. "How could you do this to all of us? To our family?" Mary cries openly now. Robin's hands grasp Cody's arm with both pleading and terror, and Janelle's face is impassive, though the tension in her jaw betrays the inner turmoil raging inside. Kody gets up, finally confessing, voice raw and shattered. "I cannot erase the past. I can't undo the hurt that I've done, but I need to make things right. I need to try, if you'll let me." And Robin moves in closer, speaking in a hushed whisper. "The path we're on won't be smooth, Kody. Truth is the only thing that gets us through this." Retention line. You think the drama is going to peak? The next bombshell will burst beyond expectations and leave everyone reeling. As the hearing goes on, the emotional stakes rise higher and higher. The testimonies and evidence mount, each bit more incriminating than the last, each new revelation stripping away layers of secrets, deception, and betrayal that have quietly accumulated in the shadows of the family over the course of years. Christine's anger, Mary's heartbreak, Robin's cautious hope and Janelle's measured response form a spectrum of emotional reactions that collide and amplify one another, making the courtroom a crucible of tension and raw human emotion. Kody, at the center of it all, can barely hold himself together, the weight of exposure pressing down with relentless force, his every word, gesture, and hesitation scrutinized and challenged. Retention line. The second confession will have you wondering about every relationship in this family. You won't see it coming. At the conclusion of the session, nothing has been resolved. Every scandal a dagger deepening fractures, and the gavel falls signaling adjournment, with the wives departing the courtroom in silence, their footsteps heavy, the turmoil outside mirroring the turmoil within. The audience is left hanging on the edge, aware that the battles fought in the realm of emotions and the shocking betrayals are far from done, and that next session will ratchet the tension. Unimaginable heights, keeping every viewer on the edge, wondering who will weather the emotional storm, who will be the first to confront Kody, and who will end up shattering under the weight of the secrets now revealed. The courtroom opens again with a heavy air of anticipation, every seat filled with taut, expectant energy, the air thick and almost electric with the weight of emotions accumulated in the past sessions. Kody sits at the center of it all, shoulders tight, hands clasped as if bracing for the coming storm of emotion, his normally assertive demeanor softened by an unmistakable vulnerability, while Robin sits beside him, fingers nervously at him, fingers nervously vulnerability, while Robin sits beside him, fingers nervously toss him, fingers nervously with tossed. Ikfodi stigmal vulnerability, while Robin sits beside him, and fingers nervous lasted by an unmistakable vulnerability, while Robin sits beside him. Wife, as if trying to anticipate the next emotional blow and prepare herself for what she would soon hear, while Christine leans forward, jaw clenched, eyes sharp, scrutinizing every face and micro-reaction, ready to pounce on any inconsistency or whiff of weakness, and Mary sits hunched up slightly, hands folded tightly, chest rising and falling with shallow, nervous breaths, steeling herself for the wave of truths she both feared and anticipated. Lips pressed into a determined line, calculating mentally the emotional battlefield, carefully selecting her moments of engagement, eyes flashing with a mix of skepticism and wary anticipation. The judge enters, gavel at the ready, and calls the court to order, the sound ringing like a drumbeat that signals the beginning of a session no one will ever forget. The first witness is sworn in, a family counselor who has been studying the family dynamics for months, and as they start into their testimony, a silence descends over the room, everyone leaning forward unconsciously, aware that the realities being uncovered could shatter 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 the reality could shatter the relating fluid that shatter the leaning forward unconsciously, awarding forward unconsciously, aware that the realities being uncovered could shatter the realities being uncovered could shatter the years of stifled resentment, hidden manipulation, emotional tactics that have not only eroded trust but created a spirit of competition and mistrust among each wife. The counselor starts, voice even but intense, have created a climate in which no one feels safe and every interaction is freighted with secret meaning. Gasps run through the courtroom. Kody's gaze skips to Robin, then Christine, then Mary, each look a silent appeal for comprehension, as Robin automatically reaches out, placing her hand lightly on Kody's arm, seeking comfort in a maelstrom of suspicion and betrayal. Retention line, get ready, the facts about to be exposed will rock this family to its core. The counselor pushes a folder down the table, thick with papers, notes, and reports, each page an opening to secret discussions, emotional manipulations, and insidious coercions that had been unperceived by the wives up to this moment. Christine grasps the folder first, her hand clenching it as anger ignites her eyes, and she bangs it onto the table, voice slicing. So all those times we doubted your choices, all those promises we believe, so all those promises we believe, so all those promises we believe. She demands, her words slicing through the tense silence, and the room holds its breath as Kody struggles to respond, the weight of exposure pressing down like a vice. Mary's eyes widen as she leans forward, voice trembling yet resolute. It's more than lies. It's betrayal, emotional sabotage, and manipulation that's been happening for years, and Janelle's serene facade cracks ever so slightly, a hint of shocked disbelief and pain flashing in her eyes as she takes in the enormity of the disclosures. Retention line: every secret revealed here strips away another layer of deceit. Watch closely, the next turn will shock you. Kody finally speaks, his voice low and tense. I thought I was doing what was best for all of us. I never meant to hurt so much, but I know now that my choices have effects I can't take back. And Robin leans in, her words barely above a whisper. We need the truth, Kody, no matter how hard. It's the only way forward. Her words reeking with desperation and tenuous hope. The counselor goes on, displaying a string of text messages and private emails that chronicle moments when Kody comforted one wife while denying another, moments intended to plant doubt and discord, each secret more incriminating than the previous. Christine's hand goes to her face, anger and heartbreak warring together. Mary clutches the armrest as if supporting herself, and Janelle's mouth is set in tight lines. Her thoughts whirling with the pets, whirling with the pet thoughts, 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 whirling with the pet lost. Christine's hen whirling with the pet ons, whirling with the pets whirlings. Christine's height lines, her thoughts whirling with the pet off, whirling with the pets brave it hat off. Retention line: the following piece of evidence will be so appalling it might turn everything the family believed they knew inside out. The tension becomes nearly intolerable as one of the former family assistants testifies, describing moments and intimate instances that show Kody's efforts at dominating discussions, manipulating opinions, and quietly pitting the wives against each other. The testimony is careful, specific, and emotionally shattering, creating a portrait of a family broken not only by error, but by actions taken with intent to create mistrust and intent to create mistrust and an intent to create mistrust and an intense intent to create mistrust and an manipulating mistrust and an intoler. The testimony is careful, the testimony is careful, and if so, coding taken with intent to create mistrust. Thickening it with intolerance, creating a portrait of a family broken. Robin goes white as she remembers herself, tears pricking at her eyes, while Christine advances on her, eyes burning with anger. We were never equal in this equation. Every choice, every lie, was about control. She spits, voice hard and unyielding. Mary's voice trembles as she finishes with, and we were left to pick up the pieces of trust that were broken behind closed doors, and the court shakes with the burden of the shared emotions, each member of the room caught in the whirlwind of heartbreak and betrayal. Kody stands there, hands trembling, trying to explain himself. I just wanted to protect all of us, to keep the peace, but in doing it all, I let all of you down. But the words rang emptily against the evidence, witness accounts, and raw emotion in the room. Retention line: breathe with me, because the next admission will make you question every single relationship within this family. Another wave of evidence is presented, gut-wrenching audio recordings of in private family discussions, moments of manipulation and miscommunication exposed to the world. The air in the room thickens as voices escalate, tears flow, and emotions crash into each other in a spectacularly raw spectacle of vulnerability, anger, and despair. Christine holds her finger up at Kody, her voice trembling with anger. Every word, every vow, every encounter was a deception to feed your domination. She cries out, and Mary quietly weeps beside her, and Robin looks across, leaning forward, whispering, we can't deny this. Honesty is the only way we get through this. Her tone weak but steadfast. Janelle's face sets in a stern expression as she grapples with the testimony, mentally listing every deception and scheming how to maneuver the emotional battlefield now that characterizes the courtroom. Retention line: the next surprise will have the whole family wondering who they are and who they can trust. As the session goes on, the other witness produces a series of photographs and video recordings depicting interactions between Kody and each wife that defy his former testimony, instances of secrecy and clandestine conversations that were purposefully kept from the other individuals. The emotional blow is overwhelming. Every revelation is stabbed to the wives' hearts, as they find it hard to keep up appearances in the wake of irrefutable, like all of irrefutable, like perfutable, like up to testimonies. In the wake of irrefutable, was this a suitable, is the of the futable, the other irrefutable, irrefutable, was mutable, irrefutable, was Robin's hands tremble as she absorbs the evidence, tears streaking her cheeks, while Christine's jaw tightens in anger, and Mary's breathing becomes shallow, her mind racing to reconcile the man she loved with the one now revealed in court. Kody stands once more, voice scarcely audible. I realize now that I have hurt, divided, and broken hearts, and I am unable to reverse it. And the wives look at each other, every reaction of their internal conflict, trust lost, love questioned, and tolerance tested beyond reason. Retention line. Just when you believe the drama has reached its climax, the next shock will leave everyone reeling in ways no one could have imagined. The judge requests final statements, and the passion is almost too much to bear. The wives rise one by one to voice pain, anger, disillusionment, and desperate desire to know what happened, as Kody's efforts to explain are inadequate to the deluge of reality now in full sight. Christine's voice rises. You've damaged the very foundation we attempted to establish. Every commitment, every promise, every moment of trust tested and broken, and Mary continues, and now there's the question, can we rebuild, or is the damage too profound? Robin's whisper slices through the quiet, nearly to herself. Truth is all we have left. Without it, nothing survives, and Janelle's quiet but sharp voice finishes, actions have consequences, and every decision, every decision, every decision, every decision must now be faced fully. Hold line. The consequences of today will spill over into the next session, with repercussions that could redefine all the relationships within this family. When the gavel comes down to announce adjournment, the wives stand, their steps slow, burdened by grief, betrayal, and doubt. Kody stays behind, shoulders hunched, the weight of the extent of his actions bearing down on him, while Robin extends her hand in a tentative expression of solidarity. The courtroom cleared, with the residual sounds of unresolved tension and a maelstrom of emotions churning in every nook and cranny. The viewers are left hanging, hearts pounding, aware that the next episode will intensify the battles even more, with the complete revelations of secrets, deception, and betrayals, complete with stunning confessions and emotional accounting no one will suspect, and thus leave viewers aching to know who will make it through the aftermath, who will be next to tackle Kody, and if any semblance of family can survive the destruction open to view and the 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 can survive the destruction open to view and the tension open to view and the destruction open to view and the passions. The courtroom is charged as the sixth session unfolds, an almost palpable heaviness in the air from the last explosive clashes, fluorescent lights above casting bitter shadows over every face, starkly illuminating worry, fear, and anger in bitter relief. Kody sits at the eye of the storm, shoulders tense, fingers knotted, eyes darting nervously between Robin, Christine, Mary, and Janelle, each look betraying a mix of regret, anxiety. High the stakes have risen, while Robin sits beside him, her hands shaking slightly as she holds them in her laps, striving to anchor herself while soaking in the emotional maelstrom that has engulfed the courtroom, every instinct screaming that the next revelations could be life-changing. Christine leans forward, eyes ablaze, jaw clenched, scrutinizing every gesture, every hesitation, every twitch of doubt on Kody's face, as if reading the cracks every twitch of doubt on Kody's face, as if reading the cracks of Blade's face, as if reading the cracks of truth and betrayal, while Mary sits slightly slouched, shoulders tight, silently bracing herself for another round of emotional blows, knowing the next wave of disclosures will shatter her world. Janelle sits serene yet taut, arms folded, eyes narrowed, mind calculating every interaction, weighing the fallout, waiting to react strategically when the next piece of evidence or emotional revelation lands, building an intricate web of tension on revelation lands, building an intricate web of tension or an intricate web of tension or building an intricate web of tension or folding an intricate web of tension orbs, folding an intricate web of tension or revelation lands, building an intricate rip. The judge enters, raising his gavel, and at once demands order, his voice firm but even, ringing in the room as if trying to place a calm over the churning maelstrom of feelings. The first witness of the day is an expert in communication and family dynamics, a person who has analyzed the dynamics of the relationships in this family, and when they come up to the Stanley, and when they come up to the stand, the courtroom leans forward as a whole, expectation nearly charged word 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 as a whole, expectation nearly charged firm leans forward as a whole. In my opinion, the professional starts, voice clean and measured. I have seen established habits of miscommunication, emotional manipulation, and solitary decision making that have eroded trust in several relationships. These actions, unconscious or deliberate, have developed an intricate emotional environment that is tenuous and extremely volatile. Murmurs and gasps spread through the room as Cody's hands clench, his knuckles blanched, the pressure of built-up guilt and exposure bearing down like a solid force, while Robin reaches out to him automatically, a mute appeal for truth and camaraderie, and still the uncertainty in her eyes betrays the fear that the emotional wounds are too deep to repair. Retention line. The following revelation will be explosive that strikes the heart of the family, watch out. The professional provides close-up notes, charts, and therapy transcripts, each revealing junctures where selective disclosure and miscommunication created breaches between the wives, allowing resentment and mistrust to develop unchecked. Christine's hands are shaking slightly as she reads over the transcripts, voice low but biting. Each time we challenged him, we were brushed off, ignored, or manipulated. How in the world do we even start tart or manipulated? How in the world do we even start tart 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 tart? Ept. Mary swallows hard, tears threatening to spill. Her voice trembling as she adds, "We've been living with shadows of doubt that were created intentionally, and now the truth is finally out, and it's devastating." The courtroom is an emotional hurricane. Every reaction magnifying the intensity, Kody shifting in his seat as he tries to find words, any words, that could possibly explain the chaos he has contributed to. Robin leans forward, whispering, "We need complete honesty, Kody. No more secrets," she said quietly but firmly. Tagline. Each secret revealed here will drive the family further toward a breaking point. You won't see the next turn coming. The second witness, a veteran House staff member who knows the rhythms of daily life intimately, testifies, her testimony revealing manipulative tactics, favoritism, and withholding of affection that stretched the already frayed tensions between the members of the family to the breaking point. The testimony is precise, specific, and intimate, each revelation falling like a sledgehammer on the already tense relationships within the family. Christine stands up, eyes smoldering, voice slicing through the charged air. All those confidential guarantees, those soft-spoken assurances, strategic, weren't they? Meant to play on us. Cody's hands shake as he attempts to answer, his voice soft and cracking. I wanted to protect everyone, but I see now that I caused pain instead, as Mary's lips also quiver, and Janelle's face is unyielding, though the tension emanating from her stance speaks of the tempest raging beneath the placid facade. Retention line. Hold on. The next confession will leave you questioning every relationship in this family. As the witness rolls out a string of recordings, text messages, and emails, the courtroom leans forward, all taking in the enormity of what is being revealed. These exchanges reveal instances where Kody provided contradictory information, shaped perceptions, and kindled jealousy among the wives, so it was an atmosphere where trust was almost impossible to achieve. Robin's eyes fill with tears as she reads messages that contradict Cody's statements, while Christine's anger becomes almost palpable and Mary's shoulders slump in despair, unable to reconcile the Kody she knew with the man revealed in court. Kody stands, trying to speak, voice breaking. I thought I was doing what was best, but I see now the devastation my decisions have wrought. But the sheer force of the evidence and the emotional testimonies makes him fight to regain control. Robin's gentle whisper, "We need truth, no matter how painful," is a tenuous lifeline in the midst of the turbulence. Retention line. Every revelation here builds to a climax that will leave you breathless. Pay attention. The session grows more intense as another witness, a trusted family friend, describes intimate moments of disagreements and backroom manipulations, each tale fueling the tension and emotional stakes. Christine's face reddens with anger, her fingers shaking as she points directly at Kody. You have deliberately destroyed our trust, our relationships, our family. While Mary's voice shatters as she adds, and we will allow Mary's voice shatters as she adds, and we will allow Mary's voice shatters as she adds, and we will allow Mary's voice shatters as she adds, and we will allow Mary's voice shatters as she adds, and we will allow Mary's voice shatters as she adds. Janelle's face sets in hard lines, each muscle in her face reflecting unspoken determination and seething anger. The proof seems almost irresistible as photographs, video segments, and transcripts become part of the evidence, each one backing the witness account, each one a knife to the tenuous threads that continue to bind the family together. The courtroom is a storm of shouting, crying, and hushed entreaties, each instant more emotionally intense than the last, and Kody's demeanor mirrors the suffocating burden of revelation, shame, and the futile efforts elation, shame, and the futile efforts revelation, shame, and the futile efforts revelation, shame, and the futile efforts kind revelation, and the futile efforts kind fame tends to demeanor, niche, and the futile effort elation, shame, and the retention line. You think the drama has peaked. The next revelation will shake this family harder than anything before. Robin leans forward, fingers interlocked tightly, as she describes her intimate discussions with Kody that were manipulated or distorted, each word a searing reminder of the emotional betrayal suffered. Christine interrupts, voice dripping with acrimony. Every promise was calculated, every reassurance a tool for control, and Mary quietly weeps, the crushing weight of heartbreak and betrayal bearing down, and Janelle watches carefully. Nuanced detail for significance. Kody grapples for words, his voice raspy and cracking. I never intended to hurt anyone, I just wanted harmony, but I realize now that what I've done has brought division and hurt way more than I ever thought. And Robin moves in closer, whispering, honesty is the only thing that will get us through this. Her words a tentative light in the darkness. Retention line. The following turn will rethink everything the family believed they had learned. Don't blink. The session continues with a series of confrontations, tears, and emotional breakthroughs as evidence of long-hidden manipulations and betrayals emerges, each revelation layering new complexity onto the fractured relationships. Christine's anger, Mary's heartbreak, Robin's cautious hope, and Janelle's calculated resolve collide in a storm of emotional intensity, leaving the audience breathless as the human drama unfolds with cinematic tensity, leaving the audience breathless as the human drama unfolds with cinematic tensions, leaving the audience tension, leave cinematic tensions, leaving the audience breathless as the human drama unfolds with cinematic tensity, leaving the audience breathless. Kody, meanwhile, is at the eye of the hurricane, exposed, vulnerable, and fighting to square his intentions with the irrefutable consequences, every admission and every bit of proof making it more obvious that the foundation of the family has been irreparably shaken. Retention line. Just when you believe the storm has passed, the next confession will hit even harder, leaving everyone in shock. As the gavel drops, marking adjournment, the wives stand up, each gesture heavy with sorrow, outrage, and unmet conflict. Kody hangs back, shoulders drooping, head down, the weight of the emotional settling bearing down upon him, as Robin extends a tentative supportive gesture, tenuous and hesitant, a lifeline in the tempest. The viewers are left on pins and needles, aware that the next installment will heighten the emotional and suspenseful tension even higher, with dramatic revelations, admissions, and showdowns that could redefine relationships, loyalty, and trust, leaving the viewers agonizing to know how every character will ride out the aftermath and who will finally break free from the wreckage. The courtroom opens to charged, almost intolerable tension, each seat occupied by such dense tension that the walls seem to be holding their breath. Kody sitting stiff in the middle, hands clasped tightly, jaw set, eyes darting nervously between Robin, Christine, Mary, and Janelle as if seeking a lifeline, while Robin sits next to him, fingers twisting the bottom of her sleeve, eyes shining with a mixture of fear, hope, and incredulity, for fear. Redraw the relationships she has fought so hard to hold on to. Christine sits forward, eye sharp, voice low but dripping with poison, scanning Cody's every microface, waiting to pounce the moment weakness or lies enter, while Mary sits with her shoulders braced, hands tightly clasped, chest rising in shallow, nervous breaths, preparing herself for another emotional tidal wave which could dismantle the thin composure she has held in place. Janelle waves. Janelle, narrowing her mind, computing every subtlety, every hint, silently planning to ride the next confrontation with precision, knowing that today's session fallout could be colossal. The judge enters, gavel raised, and the room falls silent. The authority of the court cutting through the emotional turbulence like a blade, before the first witness of the day, a close friend of the family who has observed their dynamics for years, takes the stand, the anticipation so thick it's almost suffocating. I have witnessed patterns of manipulation, selective communication, and subtle emotional coercion that have eroded trust between, 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 subtle emotional coercion that have eroded trust between, the subtle emotional coercion that have eroded trust between, subtle emotional coercion that have steady but heavy with implication. And these behaviors, whether intentional or not, have created fractures that are now impossible to ignore. The words hang in the room like a storm cloud ready to burst, Cody's fingers tightening around the edge of the table, while Robin instinctively leans in, placing a hand on his arm, silently hoping for honesty and fearing the worst. Retention line. The next revelation will shock everyone in this room. You won't believe what's coming. The witness remembers episodes of secret discussions, conflicting commitments, and situations where Cody's conduct purposefully or unintentionally generated mistrust, revealing a network of emotional manipulation which has made each of the wives doubt not only him, but one another. Christine's eyes blaze with fury, her jaw clenched, and she explodes. All those times we doubted you, all those nights of suspicion, were we just pawns in your 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 rated pawns in your rated missuspicion? Were we just pawns in your we just pawns in your rated mistrust? Were we just pawns in your rated neblos? Were we just pawns in your rated mistridum? Were we just pawns in your rated mistrustin? Were we just pawns in your rated wes? What is pawns in your we just Mary shakes her head, tears welling in her eyes, voice trembling as she whispers, "We've been living with shadows and secrets that were never ours to carry." While Janelle's expression hardens, every muscle tense, as she absorbs the revelations with a mix of caution and fury, silently cataloging every detail for her own reckoning. Retention line, hold tight. The next piece of evidence will escalate this drama beyond anything you've seen so far. Kody stands, voice breaking. "I never intended to hurt anyone. I merely wished to keep the peace, but I realize now my behavior had created discord and hurt." While Robin moves in, voice tiny but firm, "The truth is the only route forward, Kody, no more lies," and the courtroom waits with each word, the emotional stakes greater than ever. The second witness, also a former household staff, brings pictures, audio tapes, and messages depicting intimate communications at odds with Cody's earlier claims, showing instances of secrecy, favoritism, and manipulation. The proof falls like thunderbolts, every disclosure bringing the family closer to conflict. Christine snatches one document, voice shaking in rage. "You have deceived all of us. All reassurances, all assurances, all performances of pretended love were designed." Mary's hands tremble as she suppresses sobs, Robin's tears streak her face, and Janelle stands frozen and coiled, eyes cold and calculating, silently taking in the patterns of betrayal and lies. Retention line, and just when you think it can't possibly get any worse, the next confession will have you reeling. Kody tries to protest, voice shaking. "I thought that I was defending everybody. I thought I was bringing peace, but now I see that I've done irreparable harm." But the words ring hollow against the evidence, the testimony, and the emotional wreckage that surrounds him. The courtroom is a tempest of shouting, pleaded whispers, cries, and cries out, each emotional pulse hitting greater tension, each look a silent struggle for belief and understanding, each look a silent struggle for belief and understanding and understanding and understanding, understanding and understanding, understanding and look a silent struggle for belief and understanding. Each look a silent struggle for belief and understanding. Each look a silent struggle for belief and understanding. In Robin extends, holding Cody's hand, speaking softly. We have to accept this truth together, even if it breaks us, as Christine's anger crackles. Together? How are we supposed to rebuild when all our words, all our vows, all our conversations have been nothing but a deception? The weeping of Mary becomes more audible, ringing out in the courtroom, and Janelle says nothing, her cool demeanor a shell over a mind racing to grasp the chaos. Retention line. The following testimony will reveal a betrayal nobody saw coming. It will turn everything on its head. The next witness, an outside family consultant, presents a detailed timeline of Cody's actions and decisions, showing how seemingly small choices compounded over time to create a tangled web of secrecy and mistrust. As each incident is revealed, the wives' emotions intensify, Christine's hands clenching, Mary's shoulders trembling, Robin's eyes brimming with tears, and Janelle's expression tightening as she contemplates the implications of every Haitians of every Haitians of every Haitians of every heat, every Haitians of every he, as she contemplates the implications of every he contemplates the implications of every heat. Cody's explanations grow more fractured, his voice strained and low. I just wanted harmony. I was trying to help, but I realize now the destruction that I had. While Robin speaks softly, we must have honesty, no matter how painful, her voice shaking but resolute. Retention line, you won't believe the earth-shattering revelation that follows. It'll render everyone speechless. As the session goes on, emotional outbursts break out. Christine explodes, sobbing, "We trusted you, Kody, and you took that trust and used it to manipulate all of us." Mary's voice comes in, shaking but resolute. "We were left to figure out the collateral damage of lies we did not make." While Robin fights to keep herself together, voice little more than a whisper, truth is all that matters now, and Janelle's silence is deafening, a quiet tempest of judgment and consideration as she measures her own response. The courtroom is a combination of raw emotion, high tension, and building suspense, each disclosure more crushing than the previous one. Kody is exposed, vulnerable, his defenses weakening against the accumulation of evidence, confessions, and the emotional power emanating from each of his wives. Retention line. The next piece of evidence will be the turning point. It will redefine all the relationships in this family. Audio recordings are presented in succession, showing Kody's intimate conversations that go against what he has said before, instances when he manipulated facts, planted seeds of doubt, and quietly inserted tension between the wives. Each recording hits like a sledgehammer, the courtroom as a whole taking in the emotional weight, the wives responding with tears, screams, and anguished whispers. Christine shakes a finger, voice hoarse. Every word was a weapon, every promise a trap. Mary buries her head in her hands, weeping, while Robin leans forward, voice shaking. "We sought the truth, and now it's more than we can bear." And Janelle's calculated stare sweeps the room, observing each reaction, each crack in the emotional armor. Kody's voice cracks as he attempts to explain, "I never intended for it to hurt this much. I believed that I was doing the right thing, but now that I can see how wrong I was." But even his own admission cannot temper the emotional wreckage. The tempest of outrage, sorrow, and betrayal rages on. Retention line. Just when you think that the tempest has reached its worst, the next admission will surprise everybody even further. The session goes on with the addition of photos of clandestine gatherings, covert manipulations, and secluded confrontations, all confirming statements and piling on emotional depth. The wives express themselves from blatant rage to subdued despair, their faces mirrors of agony, astonishment, and ire. Robin holds onto Kody's hand, tears streaming down her face, whispering, "We have to get through this truth together," as Christine snapping, voice high and trembling, "Together." How? When all the foundations we believed in are broken. Mary weeps uncontrollably, and Janelle's face sets, eyes icy, plotting her next move in this intricate emotional war zone. The gavel comes down, adjourning meeting, leaving a lingering storm of tension, bereavement, and unresolved conflict. The audience is left hanging, hearts racing, anxious to know how the next session will play out. aware that explosive revelations, confrontations, and emotional reckoning lie ahead, and that every relationship, every loyalty in this family hangs precariously in the balance of change. Retention line. The repercussions of today will have a carryover effect into the next session, with repercussions that could redefine all the bonds in the family. The courtroom slowly clears, the sound of sobs, whispers, and shouts echoing back, each step weighed down by the day's emotional baggage, leaving the audience on tenterhooks, clamoring to see the next installment of this riveting tale of secrets, betrayals, and the pursuit of truth. The courtroom is a pressure cooker in which the last session is about to take place, tension palpable enough to be almost seen hovering in the air, Kody seated tautly in the center, his body stiff, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles turn white, eyes flicking nervously between Robin, Christine, Mary, and Janelle, as if seeking forgiveness that will never come, while Robin sits next to him, slightly shaking, fingers intertwined, heart waned, intertwined, heart waned, heart waned, intertwined, heart waned, intercelestation, heart waned. Robin sits next to him, fingers intertwined, heart waned, Robins. Knowing today's disclosures could either bring a glimmer of redemption or irrevocably shatter the broken remnants of trust. Christine sits forward, eyes piercing, jaw clenched, every muscle in her body strained with rage and heartbreak, watching Kody's every action, every micro-emotion, determined to wrest responsibility for years of lies, while Mary sits slightly slumped, her fists clenched, respiration shallow, preparing herself for another fist clenched, respirate another, Christine sits clenched, respirating her bodies, Persisting sits forward, for another of her fist, left for another, or fist clenched, respiration shallow, preparing herself for another of her fists clenched, barely held intact, and Janelle sits serene, unruffled, but sharp and calculating eyes drink in every word, every movement, preparing to make her move strategically in the game of emotional chess played out across these sessions. The judge enters, gavel at the ready, commanding the room to order, the echo of his voice cutting through the almost palpable tension, and the day's first witness, a longtime family friend, takes the stand, their presence alone increasing the stakes. I have witnessed patterns of manipulation, secrecy, and emotional favoritism that have methodically dismantled trust between Kody and his wives. The witness begins, voice calm but heavy with ka. Fractures so deep they destabilize the very foundations of this family. The words ring heavy, suffocating in their seriousness as Kody swallows hard, fists clenching around the table, while Robin automatically reaches out and touches his arm, a frail gesture of solidarity that hides the fear in her eyes. Retention line. The following bombshell will destroy all the family believed about themselves. Watch closely. The witness sets out a series of personal letters, photos, and audios that reveal mixed messages, withheld information, and times when Kody quietly manipulated one wife against another. Christine gasps, rage rising, voice increasing. All those times we doubted you. You manipulated our trust. Mary buries her face in her hands, tears welling up, as Robin clutches Kody's arm tenderly and whispers, "We can only move forward through truth," and Janelle's serene face hides a maelstrom of analysis and strategy, each any. W discovery another fragment of the puzzle she's determined to solve. Retention line, hold on. The next confession will leave every viewer gasping and agog. Kody grapples for words, voice cracking. I never wanted this pain to occur. I believed I was defending all of them, but I understand now the harm I've done. While the wives glance at each other, a combination of shock, pain, and the faintest of tentative hopes that he may finally own up. The courtroom is breathless for every word, every emotional note heightened by the very sense of strain that has accumulated over the past several hearings. The next witness, an outside therapist who has been working closely with the family, offers a step-by-step analysis of emotional patterns, illustrating how years of secrecy, manipulation, and selective disclosure have built up on top of each other, creating a toxic web that catches every relationship. Robin's hands shake as she hears the testimony, tears shining in her eyes. Christine leans forward, voice cutting and accusing. We word, voice cutting and accusing. We word, voice cutting and accusing. We word, voice cutting and accusing. We were word, voice cutting and accusing. We were word, voice cutting and accusing. We were voice cutting and accusing. We were word. Each time we believed we were clear, you yanked the carpet from beneath our feet, and Mary speaks softly, her voice heavy with feeling, and now we are left to pick up the shards of our own hearts, and Janelle's stern expression speaks to the turmoil within of working through betrayal, pain, and protecting herself in the future. Retention line. The following piece of evidence will shake the family to its core. You won't see it coming. The therapist introduces private session notes, conversation transcripts, and emails revealing situations in which Kody's efforts at protection inevitably led to misunderstanding and resentment, driving wedges between wives who once implicitly trusted him. The proof hits home with crushing force, each wife responding in a different way. Robin with silent, tearful contemplation, Christine in hot outrage, Mary in shaking despair. Kody, center stage, tries to keep his cool, voice cracking, "I can't erase the past. I can only try to be honest now," but the force of evidence and sheer emotion chokes the air, rendering each utterance at turns necessary and inadequate to repair the broken trust. Line of retention. Just when tension is at a boil, the next admission will have everyone at a loss for words. A private investigator then takes the stand, bringing photographs and recordings that confirm manipulations, private meetings, and conversations that were intentionally withheld from the wives. The impact is instantaneous, with Christine's hands flying to her face in disbelief, Mary's body shaking with heartbreak, Robin's tears streaking her cheeks, and Janelle's gaze cold, calculating as she processes the strategic deception that has Janelle's gaze cold, calculating as she processes the strategic deception that has unprocesses the strategic deception that has unvelace, and Janelle's gaze cold, calculating as calculating as unspeaks, processes the strategic deception. Kody stands, voice rough. "I realize now the full measure of my actions, and I regret it. I merely desired peace, but I see now how I have brought war." While Robin moves closer, speaking softly, "Truth is our only way forward, Kody," and the tension in the courtroom ratchets higher, each emotional point felt, the air alive with anticipation. Retention line. The second revelation will redefine trust and loyalty in manners the family would never dream of. The session resumes as blows are exchanged. Christine is seething. "You betrayed us all." Undefined. "How do we even start to fix this?" Mary's voice shakes. "We've been left to sift through heartbreak brought about by lies we didn't manufacture." Robin's gentle but urgent whisper, "Honesty is what we have left," pierces the turmoil, and Janelle's strategic look sweeps the room, readying her answer to the battlefield of emotions laid out before them. The courtroom is an emotional hurricane. The courtroom is an emotional hurricane. Voices colliding, tears, screams, and hushed cries blurring into a symphony of heartache. Kody stands vulnerable, exposed, defenseless, the weight of accountability pressing down as each wife confronts him with the consequences of years of secrecy, manipulation, and fractured trust. Undefined. Retention line. The final twist is coming. The emotional climax will leave viewers speechless. Proof still piles up, with recordings, texts, and pictures carefully documenting how Kody's choices, well-meaning as they may have been, set in motion a chain of distrust and resentment that left deep scars. The wives' responses vary from overt rage to subdued sorrow, tears pouring, fists tight, eyes blazing, each proving the raw power of human emotion that's been bubbling along just beneath the surface for years. Robin extends her hand to Kody's, crying, "We have to accept this reality together, even if it shatters us." Christine wails, "Together." Undefined. How, when all we trusted has been destroyed? Undefined. Mary is crying soundlessly, and Janelle is the epitome of contained rage, eyes measuring every step, marking every crack in the emotional terrain as they brace for what is ahead. Retention line. The emotional reckoning is imminent. Every secret, every betrayal will blow up in the courtroom. And as the judge demands final testimony and statements, the room turns into a crucible of confrontation and confession. Witnesses bear secrets kept hidden for years. Wounds given so many scars are faced squarely, and Kody must confront the full force of years of decisions, manipulation, and broken trust. Each acknowledgement, each accusation, each cry, and each scream builds to a dramatic climax that leaves none in the courtroom. It's to a dramatic climax that leaves none in the courtroom. It's but none in the courtroom. It's in courtroom. It's courtroom. It's in courtroom. It's time. Each grave, each can cry, and each scream builds to a dramatic climax that leaves none in the courtroom. It's each crewman's climax that leaves Robin's whispered plea, Christine's fiery accusations, Mary's sobs, and Janelle's calculated resolve converge in a storm of raw emotion, highlighting the complexity and depth of each relationship, the fragility of trust, and the devastating impact of deception. Undefined retention line. The final revelations will leave everyone questioning what family really means. Don't look away. The gavel comes down, the session is over, and as the wives stand up, heavy with grief, anger, heartbreak, and tentative hope, Kody stays, slumped shoulders, head bowed, the weight of emotional vulnerability bearing down as Robin stretches out a nervous hand of support, tentative but firm, the last bid for connection in the midst of disorder. The courtroom clears out gradually, the sound of sobs, whispers, and sorrow lingering on in his sorrow lingering on in his days, with sorrow lingering on his stern, anxious to see the ultimate unspooling of a tale of secrets, betrayal, emotional accountability, and the quest for truth and redemption. Retention line. With the dust settling, what would you do if you were confronted with similar betrayals? Can trust ever be restored?